hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you just
Awesome.
fine, buddy. You got a
I
full
love this.
setup, man. You got a full setup in your room.
Yeah, I mean it's not ideal. I can't move my chair back.
All right, how's
Yeah.
your day going?
It's going well, man. Some unexpected things happened recently because of this viral video
Hmm.
that I was totally not expecting to go viral at all. This wasn't the video I was expecting to go viral either. It was the one like where I showed the full accident. I was expecting that one to go like super viral,
Hmm.
and because I put a lot of time into that one, but it's not. It's usually how virality works. It's just like, yeah, I guess you're not expecting it. It just happens, you know. I almost never thought you'd ask. Here's my real life skull. Here's my hand next to it for scale. That's the inside, and that's where you can see the initial trauma. And you can see the grooves where my veins were in my head. And it sat on my head like this.
Yeah, it's the least one that
Crazy.
you expect.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into that viral video, that obviously this interview is going to be a big part of that. I wanted to learn a little bit about you and kind of your life growing up. You're from New York, right?
So no, I'm not. I'm actually not. Born in Florida, and I lived there for about 2 years, and then I moved to Georgia, and then lived there for about 7 years, and moved back to Florida, lived there for like 6 months, moved to Arizona, lived there for 7 years, and then moved to Long Island, was there for like a year and a half, 2 years, then moved to Georgia. Um, so I was in my freshman year was in Arizona, sophomore and first semester of my junior year was in Long Island, and the second semester of my junior year was in Georgia. My senior year was in Florida. And
So,
so
no, keep going, keep going, keep going.
I was bouncing around like that. My mom was working for Tesla at the time, so I was able to. Um, I didn't like it at the time, but now looking back on it, I value it so much because it's just like
Mhm.
I can go into a room with 100 people and come out with 75 friends and 15 acquaintances. So it's like
That's actually a good
it's
way of
great for
looking.
me, 100%.
Now, so it was because of your mom's job that you were kind of going from place to place to place constantly.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, because like when I'm looking through your Instagram and stuff like that, I can see that you're very much. I even see your camera in the background. You're very
Yeah.
much into videography, photography.
Yeah.
What kind of got you in that field in general?
So I was playing baseball back in 2017. I played baseball my whole life, and so I was playing football when my junior year, the end of my junior year, and or beginning of my junior year in Long Island, and I hurt my hip. I had a fracture in my hip, and so I couldn't play, and I was bored. I was just bored. I couldn't really go run. I couldn't go train or anything. So a lot of my time was spent playing video games and watching YouTube. And so I saw this drone. I was like a Phantom 3, I think it was. I still have it. It's under my bed. I now have like three other drones now. And I was like, I want this drone. So I went to my dad, who I just recently connected with, who wasn't in my life for a while. And for Christmas, he got me this drone that I'd been wanting for forever. It was huge to me. I was like, oh my God, this is great. Then in 2017, I got my first camera, which was a Canon 80D.
Mhm.
And
Oh, that's what I have. That's a camera
yeah,
that I have. Yeah.
yeah, I now shoot on a Canon EOS R right here. But for that entire time being, I was super infatuated by it. And so when I moved to Florida, eventually, I just started shooting sunsets and stuff like that because I finally had a camera and was able to kind of tell stories with photos. And one thing that's big for me is like telling stories with photos rather than just in like about photography and not just like, oh, here's a picture. It's like, no, here's a photo and here's a story behind the photo that's like really gonna make you feel it. Long story short, I ended up coming to New York on a dream to work at 368, which is a Casey Neistat studio. It's a creator studio in New York. And ironically, I was actually fired 2 days ago, the day of the viral video, because I was tending to the viral video. It's ironic because it's a creative studio. And you think they would support the creators internally more than they would support the creators externally. And that wasn't the case though, and unfortunately, they're like, okay. I told them I was like, hey, I'm gonna be live all day today. This video is blowing up, and I need to convert these viewers on this video into followers so I can further grow my accounts and kind of amass all over the place. My dream is to be one of the biggest photography channels on YouTube,
Hmm.
and I'm looking into getting my own studio actually right above where I used to work.
My
Mhm.
man,
It's
Jesus.
it,
It's gonna be rough for the next few weeks. I'll be eating ramen for the next few weeks until I can kind of secure that. And I've a bunch of stuff saved, but there's definitely plans to get some big things happening. I think that was the universe kind of saying like, hey, like now's your time, dude. And it's weird how it all worked out because I was I wanted to get back into freelancing because I used to freelance a lot when I was in New York, and after I worked for a production company and an ad agency, I would just make videos for them and shoot a lot for them. I was like, I just want to start freelancing and shooting for these crazy people. And I was at this public hotel one day, and I was actually I was there with a bunch of friends. I ran into this guy, and his name was Gio, and he was like, "Hey, man," I had my camera with me, and at the time was a 1DX Mark II, and he was like, "What do you do for a living?" He's like, "What do you do with that camera?" I was like, "I shoot vloggers. I shoot vlogs. I'm a photographer, whatever." He's like, "What are you doing tomorrow night in particular?" And I was like, well, I have a shoot for this bike company called Super 73. It's an electric bike company, and I was like shooting group rides they do. And in those group rides, I just ride along with them. They'd give me a bike, and I'd go on these 25, 30-mile bike rides with these people, and I would shoot photos of them while we were riding. So it was super sketchy, super unsafe because I wasn't wearing a helmet. But I'd be like riding, looking through my camera and like shooting photos of these people, or like turning back as I'm shooting. I had to shoot that morning, and or he's like, I have a gig for you tomorrow night at the World Trade Center. I was like, "Yeah, I got my tomorrow night's open, but, in the morning, I'm booked." He's like, "Okay, that's fine. I'll see you at 7 PM at the top of the World Trade Center." I was like, "Okay." The next day, that morning, I was riding to go, it was before I had gotten a boosted board, and it was called an inboard, so it was a really inferior, like, cheaper electric skateboard with a kinda janky remote, and I was going towards Broadway with, like, oncoming traffic, and I went to go turn, I hit a puddle, and my remote disconnected from the board, so I couldn't slow down. So I bailed off the board, and in that process, I had my phone in one hand and my camera in the other hand
Uh-huh.
because I had just stopped shooting a vlog because I was gonna vlog the entire like process of it, and I face planted into the ground and I sliced open my chin,
Hmm.
and so it was a really weird moment for me because I ended up going to the hospital and I was like, wow, this is like okay, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm at the hospital. My shoot starts at 10. I was gonna go shoot behind the scenes, but hopefully I can make it in time for the bike ride. And so in that time, I was able to make it there, and then went on a 25-mile bike ride with 8 stitches in my chin, and and then was able to after that whole thing was able to go home, shower, change, put on some super fancy clothes, and then go shoot. It was this dude's birthday party at the top of the World Trade Center. It was his 40th birthday party, and at that birthday party, he had Pitbull performing, Fat Joe performing, and 50 Cent performing. So I got all these crazy photos of people, and that was when I really knew I was like, okay, this is what I really want to do. I really have a passion for shooting photos of people, and I'd been shooting like sunsets and stuff like that. But like after that, the accident happened. About a month later, the accident happened.
But before we jump into that, I did want to say
Yeah.
like because there's a lot of things that you just said that caught my attention. Like number one, I didn't
Yeah,
know
for
you were
sure.
an athlete, my man.
Yeah,
Didn't know that you played baseball. What position did you play?
I was a center fielder.
Center fielder.
Because I was awful at school. I hated school,
So do
and
you think it was just you're more of a person who kind of just you gravitate to what your interest is at that particular
100%.
moment?
I have crippling ADD also. I've had really bad ADD since I was in 5th grade, and or that's when it was diagnosed. For the longest time with my accident, I wasn't able to be on my medicine, so I was like I couldn't really be productive at all because I like my brain's moving at 1,000 miles an hour, and I can't set and be like do one thing. I was just like oh squirrel, like it's like
But the good thing is, at
crazy.
least with photography, it does keep your eye constantly
Exactly.
engaged in something different.
100%. It was difficult, but though because going back to the accident, but before we get there, like you said, I you're sorry, I just like lost ADD. I ADD.
No,
I'm
no, it's all good because like again, you mentioned a lot of different things, sports, and then ADD, and then also that you got reconnected with your father recently. Um,
yeah. So
was
my
that
father wasn't really
prior
in my life.
was that prior to the accident or
Yes,
after
yes.
the accident?
Yeah, so my father and he was there for the first like 5 years, and then there was a 10-year gap from like 5 or 6 to like 16. He wasn't there, and like I said, for legal reasons, I can't really talk about it. But
Of course.
great, he's a great father, but it's just like the decisions were made that were bad, and um, it's it was difficult for me at the time. But I had a father figure named Amir, and that my mom we had met, who was kind of my mom's boss for a while,
Mhm.
and like they had never gotten together or anything like that. It was just strictly like platonic. And they were just he's such a good person, and he was the reason I was the athlete I was, and because like and I still am. I'm only 20 years old. Like if I wanted to go out and like run routes and play football, like I definitely could. But the only thing that would be bad is the brain injury.
Well, I will tell you this, man. You told me you're 20 years old, right?
Yeah,
To be 20 years old and to kind of know what you're passionate about is a big thing. It's a big
yeah.
deal because there's a lot of people who are probably in college at this point,
Mm-hmm.
still trying to figure out what it is that they really want to do, and you already know exactly where your passion is, and that's really big. It's really, really
100%. And it's crazy because there's so many all of my friends are like in college or just like, and I've kind of not disconnected, but like I've grown up very quickly for my age, especially from the accident. I was forced at a very young age as a 19-year-old to really kind of look at life in a whole different way, to be like, wow, like if what you're doing right now isn't what you want to be doing, like why are you doing it? Because the second you're there is the second you're like, oh wow, I could have been I can die tomorrow and there'd be nothing, there'd be no trace of anything. And
absolutely.
it's just that's the way I look at it now. It's like any day it can just lights out, and if you're not happy, like what are you doing? You know?
No, and I agree. And one thing that I did want to talk to you about, because when I watched your viral video on TikTok,
Hmm.
then I went on your Instagram, when I went on your YouTube channel to kind of learn more about what happened on that day.
Yeah.
And the one thing that was very resounding to me was the fact that you left that accident with such great perspective on
Uh
life.
huh. Yeah, for sure.
Like your view on everything, it sounds way more mature for a 20-year-old.
Thank
And
you.
I absolutely, man. And I wanted to ask you, if you can kind of talk to us a little bit about what led up to that accident. Like how was it that it happened? I know you were on a board and you were kind of, I'm
Yeah.
assuming it was at night, right?
Hmm. So here's the crazy part about this whole thing. We still don't know what happened.
Brandon, everybody is praying for you. Everybody's here. We've got Jen and Adie and Kim and Nick and Desiree. And of course, you got me sitting here. He's even actually got a nice view of some water view. So he's being really well taken care of. The doctors and nurses here have been amazing. So everyone, please just keep Brandon in your prayers, and we will keep you updated as things change.
Happened, and I was in Lower Manhattan. So I left my house at around 8:50 p.m. and was on my way to Taco Bell. And from Taco Bell, I was gonna go to this restaurant called Rag and Bean. So I was gonna go to Taco Bell first to get my food for me and my little brother and sister, and then I was gonna go to this nicer Mexican place to get food from mom. And so I never made it to Taco Bell. I left at 8:50 p.m. and then my phone says that I was at the hospital by 8:58 p.m., which is, and it's not very far. I was only going probably not even a mile on a boosted board. So it's for example, it's with that board, I can go from Battery Park where I was living with my mom to Times Square in about 15 minutes, which is that's normally like a 45-minute train ride from there,
Pretty fast.
or 35-minute car ride if there's no traffic. With traffic, it's probably 55 minutes to get there. Um, so I can get anywhere in the city very fast. So I left and my phone says I was there. I left at 8:50. My phone says I arrived at the hospital by 8:58 p.m. Which give or take a few minutes from that, but 8:58, and then I wasn't checked into triage at the hospital till 9:13. So there was, and I was and when I got to the hospital, I was considered a drug overdose, and I was also a John Doe. They didn't know what my name was, even though I had my wallet on me. They had no idea, and so
Wait,
the way my
why would they think that it was a drug overdose?
I had no clue, no clue, no clue. It was a Friday night, like I was wearing, and I know they say like addiction doesn't have a like a an outfit or a wealth value. But at the same time, I was wearing a $500 Lululemon jacket and a super nice flannel under that, and some nice jeans and Vans, and riding a $1,400 skateboard. So it's like with AirPods in. So it's not like I was like
Yeah,
I looked like I was a drug overdose, but like I said, there's no really like appearance for someone who's an addict. But yeah, I've never done drugs in my entire life, and I would never want to. It's a waste of time, dude. My mom actually found out that I was at the hospital because she used to find my friends on iPhone and it was like, hey, like in like tracked my location, was like, why is he at the hospital and why is he not moving from the hospital? And so she called the hospital and was like, hey, track my son's location. It says he's at the hospital. You have someone wearing a gray jacket and a flannel shirt, and they were like, um, they're like, yeah, we have someone matching his description. Will you be visiting? And mom was like, is he alive? And they were like, well, he's in critical condition right now. We don't really know what's going on, but we can't really tell you much more of that. So my mom ran outside and hopped in a cab. As she walked in, she was like, she could see me, but she still had to check into the hospital. So she was like, I need to get in. I need to get in. And they were like, well, you need to sign in, take a picture here, do this, blah, blah, blah. So fill out this paperwork, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no, I need to go see my son. So she walked in and saw me in triage and was like, the way she said it was, I was flopping around the bed like a flounder, uncontrollably. And I was seizing like very rapidly. And the nurses were kind of just standing there like, oh yeah, drug overdose. And I was like, no, not a drug overdose. He does not do drugs. And she's like, I know parents are in denial about their kids doing drugs, but I know he does not do drugs. He's a great kid. He's never done anything like that. He's not a drug overdose. He wasn't wearing a helmet. He was on a skateboard, which was right next to me in the hospital room. She was like, he was on an electric skateboard. He must have fallen and hit his head. And while she was saying that, I don't remember this, but while she was saying that, she said, I sat up. I stopped seizing and I sat up and I looked at her. I went like right to her. And or probably this way. I looked this way at her. She immediately knew. She's like, no, lights are out. Something happened. He hit his head. Like something's wrong, and like do some tests on, like, figure out what's wrong. He must have hit his head. Right as I looked at her, blood started to drip out of my left ear, just dripping out of my ear. And that was from the AirPod I had in my ear that had caused a bunch of scuffing inside my eardrum or inside my ear canal. And so we'll get to that later though. And so right as they saw that, they kind of just jumped into action. They were immediately like, okay, what's going on? This is what's happening. And they brought me to a CT scan. And in that CT scan, the first one they couldn't get me to sit still. So they're like, we have to intubate him to get these scans, so we can figure out what's going on. And my mom was like, intubate him, do whatever you need, like knock him out right now, like do something. Time is of the essence. This is my mom telling them that, like the medical professionals, that they even administered me Narcan, which is like the fix for like overdosing. It's like you put it up someone's nose and like immediately brings them to, like immediately. It's like not like there's not a delay of any sort.
So like the smelling salt, kind of.
Yeah, kind of, but it's like it's made specifically to stop an overdose. So if there was any question to be overdosing, they were like, oh, yeah, this is what's happening. Like, and they should have known right away that that's not what's going on. Immediately they were like, no, he's not a drug overdose. Okay, cool. Then they found out after a CT scan and probably 30 minutes after I've been at the hospital, they're like, okay, he has a subdural hematoma and hemorrhage on the left side of his brain, as well as a complex temporal bone fracture on the left side of his skull. And so they were like, we're gonna transfer him uptown for emergency brain surgery, because I was at Lower Manhattan Presbyterian. Hold on.
So wait, as you take a break real quick, I wanted to, because like I'm trying to put myself kind of in that position that you're in, right? Because obviously you're out of it at this point. I think everything that you're telling us right now is from recollection from your mom or from other people that were there in that moment. But I can only imagine what it was that your mom was kind of going through, because right now the story sounds like it's been days, but really we're talking just minutes from accident to diagnosis to your mom arriving to you getting a scan to you getting intubated. It's something that's pretty.
That all happened within a span of 30 minutes. And so with that, there's this whole question of like, and I'll get to the crazy parts in a second, but I'll just give you a background first of it, because at that point we still hadn't known how I got there. We still don't know how that's one of the biggest things that I'll get to in a second. I got to be careful not to jump the gun here. So for continuity purposes, so they intubated me and they're like, we're gonna move from uptown to Weill Cornell, which has a dedicated neuroscience wing. It's about a 20-minute drive uptown, and they were like, okay, we're gonna send him up there. And so they were prepping me for the ambulance, and right before they sent me, they put me in for another CT scan. The the neurosurgeon there at the time was he said, we're gonna do one more scan just to be sure before we send him. And thank God they did that, because if they didn't, I'd be dead. Because they found out that when they did that second CT scan, they found what's called the midline shift. So basically, my brain had been swelled so much in such a short amount of time that it was starting the middle of my brain to shift away from like to the other side, which is very bad, like very, very, very bad. My brain had swelled 6 millimeters in 10 minutes, which is like it doesn't sound like a lot. That's a lot. It's a lot. Like 6 millimeters is like that's a lot. And for your brain to like go out, there's only about probably 15 millimeters between your skull and your brain.
Yeah, there's not much space.
Not much space. So 6 millimeters in 10 minutes. Doctor walked out to my mom right before they were going to send me. And he was like, okay, change of plans. We're not sending him. He won't make it if we send him in the hospital. He's probably got about 7 to 10 minutes left before he goes brain dead. And so my mom wasn't like panicking. She was super like adrenaline fueled. Like, okay, then do it. Go now. She's like, I know, I've watched enough Grey's Anatomy to know that time is of the essence, were her exact words. And so she was like, she went in and they went in and brought me into surgery to do a hemicraniectomy where they removed the entire left side of my skull. I actually have my skull sitting right there. It's on my desk. In that time, that was when my mom kind of really started to realize, like, okay, she got super dizzy after that. She was like, it kind of all set into her after that. After they'd taken me away into surgery, there was like, my brother was losing it. My oldest brother was losing it because him and I hadn't had the best altercation before I left. And my sister was there. She was actually out with her friends that day because it was a Friday night in October in New York City. It was a beautiful day out, like 65 degrees outside. It was beautiful. Pray for him; we'll be fine. And my brother was losing it. He's a wreck. He was a mess. Because my family hasn't really had to deal with like death like that, and I'd never done anything as little as broken a bone severely, other like that wasn't related with sports. Like an accident wise, never have been in car accidents, something like that, knock on wood. I guess it's still too late to knock on wood, but I so I was in surgery for about 3 hours, and after that I was immediately transported up to Weill Cornell to recover in the
Where
ICU.
was the original location where they wanted to take you before they halted everything, right?
It was Lower Manhattan was the original one, and then I was going to be moved uptown to Weill Cornell right after that for the dedicated recovery and neuroscience wing. I'm actually getting ready to release a new video about the accident with my mom's perspective on my YouTube channel coming up soon. It's not up right now. I just haven't had a chance to edit it because I've been working so much. But now I don't have work anymore, so it's kind of just time to dial in on YouTube. With that, I went through and there was a lot that happened within that whole process. Like, I was immediately transferred uptown before I was even put into a room right away. They immediately transferred me uptown, and my mom was like, okay, let's go. And so that's when my mom started documenting all this footage. So if in the first YouTube video I uploaded called Grateful to Be Alive, you'll see there's a video of my mom's like, okay, Brandon, like, you did great in your first surgery. You were on your way to the better hospital now. I forget like what exactly she said. And then she pans over and there's an EMT holding a bucket, and that bucket is a giant bag. And in that giant bag was my skull.
Brandon, I'm taking this video for you. We're in the ambulance. We're on the way to the other hospital now. You did great in your first surgery. And yes, Brandon, that is your skull in her lap.
Fresh out of my head.
So you told me that you have the skull literally on like your desk?
It's in an IKEA bag.
In an IKEA bag? Why on an IKEA bag?
I don't know, man. It's just kind of been. My mom put it there initially, because she like bleached it and like cleaned it, and because like they weren't gonna give it to her, and mom was like, "No, this is his skull. He gets to keep it. So this is it."
Wow.
It's like you can see everything about it, like, and it fits on my head perfectly. Like if I wasn't wearing headphones, it fits right here perfectly. It was actually like this. Was the how it was, and so I have a kind of a cut that goes from here down, and
I mean, it's pretty insane because that's a big chunk of your skull, man.
Skull, yeah.
That's not like a little bit. That's a decent sized chunk that they took
huge.
out.
And brain surgery is not everyone. I was always under the impression when I was like because I was like, brain surgery is fascinating, you know, like it's so fascinating because like to have I was always like, they have to be so gentle up there. No, they take like saws and like drills and shit, and like they're not gentle at all. Like just like yeah, we're gonna be gentle, and it's like like it's not gentle. And so I can't taste or smell really at all. I mean, I can smell kind of aromas, but I can't particularly like all colognes smell the same to me. All food pretty much tastes the same to me. It's kind of miserable actually, but I'm grateful to be here.
Yeah.
So I'd rather not be able to smell or taste than be dead. So or be in a wheelchair and have a tube going in my throat and really not be able to taste.
True. And a thing that I did see also on YouTube was that recovery that you had.
It was insanely fast.
And one thing that I will want to say, I think obviously big credit to the medical professionals that were there that helped you recover, because obviously they were
Biggest part of it. Yeah.
they're doing an amazing job. But one thing that I think definitely helped you a lot was having your family there,
Oh yeah.
because
Sure.
consistently in the videos that I saw, your mom never left your side.
No.
Your sister, your family, they were always there. I think I saw like either a little sister celebrating her birthday, literally with you in the hospital room.
Yeah, it was kind of sad that year, and so this year we had to make it a little special for her this year, and I got some pretty cool photos of that, of those. But yeah, my mom didn't sleep for 82 hours from October 11th to about however long 82 hours after that, didn't sleep at all, and she wasn't like, it wasn't out of panic, it wasn't out of anything, it was just pure adrenaline. She was just like, he needs an advocate, and because they wanted to do a bunch of different things, like give me certain drugs and whatever, and to kind of stabilize me. I was like, no, what? No. And so on the second day, I had a ventilator in. If you see the video, you probably put that up on the screen. Like, I had a ventilator in, and I was not in good condition at all. And so you look at that footage and you look at me at that time. The doctors had told my mom were estimating around, there was no timeline at first, but then they're like, you were estimating about 6 to 8 months.
16 months, what, to recover, to wake up?
To leave from the hospital.
Oh, okay.
To get to be out of ICU. Just to give you a preface on that, I was home in 23 days. Like in my bed, but home in 23 days.
Though?
I don't know, man.
Like from 20, well, you said 23 days?
Mm-hmm. And that's had gone through rehab. I was only in the hospital for 11 days. And then I spent the next 12 days in rehab. It's crazy. Yeah. So going back to the initial night of the accident, we still don't know to this day. And here's what gets really sketchy, and really suspicious. It's like, how is this gone unnoticed? I was in Lower Manhattan. So I was within a mile, not even. I was within like probably 20 blocks of Wall Street, of the New York Stock Exchange, as well as the World Trade Center, which the World Trade Center is the most surveilled place in the world. Like, there's I went and counted after the fact, about a few months later, over 144 cameras were pointed at the road that I was on for a fact. Or I'm 99.8% sure that I was on this road. Because I don't remember anything about the accident but I remember the day of the accident. I remember I was actually out shooting Hudson Matter. I was shooting his YouTube video, and Hudson is Jordan Matter's son. Jordan's a big photographer on YouTube and a big YouTuber. He's got 5 million subscribers. He's a good friend of mine also. Amazing dude. And so he was one of the first people. Hudson actually would have taken the last photo of me alive, which is crazy. There's a photo of me on my Instagram. It's me in a flannel, and I'm holding a camera on a gimbal. It was my camera, and we were shooting, and he, looking back on it, like, that would have been the last photo of me not in a hospital bed alive. And I would have been earlier in the day wearing the same outfit that I was wearing that was eventually cut off of me later that night.
That's
And
insane.
so it's crazy. It's so crazy. And so throughout this whole process, we've been trying to figure out what happened that night. What happened? Where was I? We still don't know where I was. We don't know how I got to the hospital. We don't know why, like, who was with me when I got to the hospital, because apparently there was a witness, according to the hospital. We don't have the witness's name. And they said I was brought in by EMTs, but there's no ambulance support. There's no 911 call. There's no camera footage from the hospital.
Wait. Hold on. We're going to take a pause real quick. You're going to tell me there was a witness, but we don't have that witness's name.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have an ambulance report of when you so who took you to the hospital? That is so bizarre to me.
Absolutely insane.
And there wasn't a camera, there wasn't security footage anywhere.
There's 6 cameras in the ambulance bay, and just so happened that those were erased in that time.
Man, that is, bro, that is.
They automatically deleted from the cloud after 14 days. Come on,
That's
dude. It's a
strange.
hospital. It's a hospital.
And then what do you
Like-
think?
I think that something suspicious is going on. I personally think that there's many things within this whole process that just really don't make much sense. That like you would imagine would be I don't even know, dude. Like there's I also, and another crazy thing, I talked to over 24 attorneys until I found my current one. His name's Gino. He's actually one of the best attorneys in New York, and he was actually met by my sister, who they were at like a golf outing, and like it just so happened my sister met him. But before him, I had talked about 24 attorneys, and every single one of them was like, "Yeah, we can't help you, dude. We don't know who we're suing. We can't help you." And I'm like, "What do you mean you can't help me? That's just like that doesn't make any sense. Your whole job is to figure out what happened, bring your investigative team in on it, and figure out what happened." And thankfully, I found Gino, and we're finally in that process of figuring out what happened and pulling that camera footage and seeing what actually happened that night.
No.
And hopefully, but the problem is it's been so long. The
No.
time is not on our side.
One thing I did want to ask you is, like, obviously, number one is your health. Thank God that you're healthy again. You're living a normal life again. But are you okay with the reality that maybe you won't know what happened that day?
It's yeah. I mean, here's the thing, dude. And I've had my friend Gabe told me, he was like, dude, you have to be able to realize like it's been a while, and the chances of you not finding out what actually happened that night and it just being a speculation your whole life, the chances it's there. It's like it's a high chance that it's there, that we don't figure out what happened that night, and I don't get compensated for what I had to go through. But at the same time, it's like I believe that the universe will kind of compensate me in a way that I wouldn't be. That either way, it's going to come around, and I'll earn something from this, and because and that's not like I deserve this, blah blah blah. But yeah, there've been my friends like my roommates have told me, he's like, dude, you're walking around like you have this chip on your shoulder, like the universe owes you something, and I'm like, dude, I'm like, I guess so, yeah. But at the same time, I'm right to feel that way. You know what I mean? Like it's very personal to me, and everyone's like, yeah, dude, like, you need to stop talking about the accident. It's just move on is what a lot of people say. Just move on, man. I get that happened to you, but it's been a year since then. I'm like, dude, TBIs never go away. Like traumatic brain injuries never go away. I'm still getting surgery. I just had surgery on the 3rd for my ear to fix my hearing in my left ear, because my complex temporal bone fracture actually kind of broke a bunch of small bones in my ear canal, and in that process, I wasn't able to wasn't able to hear, so because it kind of pinched my ear canal shut. So with that, they put a new titanium bone in my ear on November 3rd, and I think it's I still have another surgery in January, and so people telling me like kind of to move on from it. It's like that's easy to say from an outside perspective, but at the same time, it's like you wake up every morning for the first 19 years of your life, okay, and you look in the mirror and you see someone, and you become accustomed to that, and you've learned to accept that person, and you're confident in that body, and you look confident in who you are. All right, and then one day you wake up and you're not the same. You're like, what happened? Like what's going on? And you don't recognize yourself. And in that time, you realize there's this overwhelming sense of insecurity that comes along with it. And still to this day, it's one of my biggest insecurities, and is my bump on my head is like, and even after that, and but then after you get used to seeing yourself that way, after me without a skull, I got used to seeing myself without a skull and seeing myself with a helmet on or whatnot. I had another surgery, and then that totally altered my appearance again. And I was like, oh, okay, this is how it is, I guess. There's just so many things, like I don't miss the way I look, but at the same time I do. It's like I miss that. I look at old photos of me and I'm like, wow, I really took that for granted. I really, like, I was a good looking dude, and I'm still confident in the way I look, but like at the same time, it's like there's some of that's just kind of whittled away, unfortunately. But it comes back with learning to love yourself again, and I stated that in my in the kind of the process video that was kind of that was the comment came from that led to this viral skull video. There's a part of that video where it's like me learning to love myself again, and TikTok was a big part of that. Me going live I was live every single day for about probably 3 months. Every single day at 9 p.m. I was live, and I was always I was always answering the same questions, and I didn't mind that. It was kind of a coping mechanism for me. Also, it was able for me to be able to sit back and understand, like, okay, this is what it's like, and it's also been helpful for me to help people to know, like, okay, yeah, this part is like this happened to me, and I've come to realize that it happens to a lot of people. A lot of people have these types of injuries, like parents, kids, brothers, sisters, and if it can happen to me, it can happen to anyone.
Absolutely.
And
And one thing that I did want to kind of touch on is that, again, for this to have happened to you at such a young age, it does kind of change the way you look at life. And I feel especially during these times, right, where a lot of us are in lockdown or living a very different kind of life because of the pandemic, right? And I think oftentimes, I think you've heard it from your friends, I've heard it from my friends, where we're tired of being at home or not being able to do certain things, but we kind of have to do those things for our own health and for the health of others, right?
Yeah.
What would you say to those people who kind of maybe are looking at everything, like a glass half empty as opposed to half full? What would you say to them?
I think it's really easy to get into that mindset because it's easy. I think it's to be able to be like, oh man, I fucking hate being inside, blah blah blah. This is awful. Without realizing that, like, dude, you're inside all day. You have time to focus on yourself and focus on what you want to do. I think at a time where 40 million Americans were on unemployment, I think,
Mm-hmm.
which was insane. And at that time, I think people didn't really realize, like, dude, you have basically free money coming to you. It's just you're not working. You have money it's going to pay your rent, and you have stimulus checks. Figure out what you want to do, whether that's investing, whether that's starting a clothing line, whether that's starting a business of some other sort, starting an Etsy shop of some sort. Like, figure out what you want to do and fucking do it. Because the second you stop feeling sorry for yourself is the second you start realizing, like, nothing's guaranteed. You know what I mean? And it's not going to happen unless you do it. And I think for me, looking at a glass half full versus empty is being able to understand that, like, yeah, it's half full, but it's also half empty. And it's a weird combination because it's like, how are you going to look at this thing and be like, yeah, it's half empty? It's like, no, it's half full. Like, what do you mean? You got so much more water to drink. You got so much more liquid to drink right there. And he's like, yeah, but I've already drank so much already, and I don't want to, like, whatever. It's like, dude, it's not going to happen unless you make it happen. And I think it's all a mindset thing. And with that, I've definitely had my moments of glass half empty things. I've definitely had that where I'm just like, damn, dude, like, I'm in this creative rut. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, even though I know what I'm doing, I've shot for some really crazy people and pretty crazy brands, and I know what I'm doing. But there's always that self doubt, and I think that whole process is allowing self doubt to kind of take over your entire mindset, rather than having your self doubt be your kind of driving force. And telling yourself, yourself's going to tell you, like, oh, you can't do this, and you're going to, the defense to that is to tell yourself, fucking watch me. And I think that's a really good mindset that a lot of people need to take on, is understanding, like, dude, you control your own destiny. I feel like think everything happens for a reason, but in a sense, I don't think it happens as often as we think as often as we think it does. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think the whole everything happens for a reason thing is, it's a lot of kind of association. It's a lot of kind of putting it together backwards. It's kind of backcasting what that was and looking back, like, okay, this happened because of this, and this wouldn't have happened because of this. For example, I was a arrogant, fucking ignorant, I was invincible kid, 18-year-old, 19-year-old, making some decent money freelancing and doing some pretty cool things. But life is a really, really good way of being like, fuck you, dude, reset, and slams your head into concrete. So as a really good way of doing that. And I've thankfully I was able to get that realization at an early age. And I feel like it's a kind of a come to Jesus moment for people where they're like, okay, this is what I need to do, and this is how I'm going to do it, and this is the steps I'm going to take to do it. And everyone has their own way of doing things, you know. Um, like I am not a very organized person. You can probably see the desk, all this stuff right there. There's an apple juice bottle right there, and then a camera right next to it, and then like just a bin of random shit right there. So it's like, and I say I'm gonna be organized, but I'm not. But at the same time, it's like it's a mess, but I know where everything is.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's a lot of people who function like that, especially people with ADD, like myself. Um, to end on that subject is like, you control everything you're gonna do, and if you're either gonna do something or you're not, and it all comes down to whether you want to do it or not. And if you want to do it, you'll do it. If you want to see someone, you'll make time to see someone. If you want to start a brand, you'll make time to start that brand.
Absolutely.
If you want, it's all up to you,
bro. I'm literally I can't wait for people to see this interview because, brother, you are inspiring in many different perspectives because you're just so young. You're talking like you're somebody like who's like 40 years old. You're talking way outside of your range.
I appreciate it.
And seeing everything that you're doing, I can't wait to see what you do in the next 5 or 10 years with your videography, with your photography. If you end up doing vlogs, if you end up popping on YouTube, I can't wait to kind of see what comes next, man.
That's the dream.
That's the dream is to be. I just want to entertain people, man. I just want to make people smile, and I feel like what a lot of people can relate to this is like, a lot of personally, during that accident, a lot of my time was spent either talking on TikTok and creating on TikTok or watching YouTube and kind of escaping the reality that I was in to kind of just forget about it. And in a way that's like, in a way that's why like VR was blowing up during the pandemic. Everyone was trying to escape their current reality, myself included. I bought an Oculus Quest for $700 on eBay, even though it's a $20 thing. I spent just way more money than I needed to, and then they just came out with a new one, and I was like, God damn it, fuck. And but at the same time, it's like I just want to be able to help people and show people like, no matter what's going on in your life, whatever's happening, whatever happened to you, whatever is going on in your life, it's gonna get better. The way I like to think of it is we've all heard of the itsy bitsy spider and how it climbs up the water spout, and then the rain came and washed it all away. Then the sun came out and dried it all up, and then the itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. Okay, and it's such a cheesy thing. But I was listening to it the other day, or not listening to it. I heard it randomly the other day. I really had a good perspective on it. It was like, if you think about it, like every single one of us is the itsy bitsy spider. We're all itsy bitsy spiders trying to go up to the water spout, and that top of the water spout is our goals of what we want to achieve in life. And then the rain is all these setbacks that are going to come, and nothing comes easy. You know, it's always going to rain. There's always going to be setbacks. But then when there's rain, there's always going to be sun, and there's always going to be that window after the fact that you can kind of just push forward as hard as you possibly can until that next setback comes in. And it's going to come sooner than later because of whatever's happening. But at the same time, it's like, dude, if you can look at setbacks and look at them in a way where it's like, okay, this happened. How do I move from it? How do I move forward from it? So yeah, I think it all comes down to people, dude. And me personally, I just want to make people happy. I want to be that escape for people. And it's not, and I feel like a lot of YouTubers, it's like, yeah, look at all this cool stuff I have and all this cool things I do. And it's like, okay, cool, man. That makes me even more depressed. It makes me even more sad for what my situation is. Because knowing your life is so great and my life is whatever it's going on, I feel like people lack gratitude. And the first person to tell me that was my roommate, Coy. And a big shout out to Coy White is and Adrian Vasquez. My roommates are the two most motivational individuals for me. Is like, dude, you made it this far. You keep saying you're going to do all these things. I'm waiting to see you do it. And he goes, it's going to come from you when you decide to do it. And I think this whole TikTok blowing up was kind of like the universe is like, hey, I'm deciding for you. You're doing this now. Like,
and I think you're absolutely right. And one thing that I did want to ask you is like, the accident happens last year. You're recovering. you're getting better step by step, and then all of a sudden, boom, the pandemic hits, everything's on lockdown. You know, you were talking about the concerts that you wanted to go and photograph. You can't do that now. All the
Yeah.
events are kind of closed off, but then everybody's online now. Everybody's
Yeah.
going on TikTok. Everybody's going on Instagram. For
And
you, how was
Go
it
ahead.
to kind of have that community? Did it help you in your recovery process to virtually communicate with people?
So, really funny thing about this whole quarantine situation, I was double quarantined. So accident happened in October. I wasn't able, my mom didn't let me leave the house for like 4 months. Like because I was out of pure like angst and fear. Not angst, anxiety.
Yeah.
Like just pure anxiety of because last time I left the house by myself was I was in a hospital dying that night. Okay. Um and then after all this happened, I had just gotten hired at 368 and I had been a part of 368 for a while. Um but after this all happened was when I was like, I just got a job on March 3rd. I was my first day as a full-time employee at 368. And with that, I was like, great, this is gonna be awesome. I'm so excited to make this like my dream and pursue my dream. And I was just like, everything was happening in so many different ways that I was like, okay, I can do this. We're fine. And then 10 days later, fucking pandemic hit. So I was stuck in this like my mom immediately panicked. So we went down to our my house in Florida with my grandparents, and we had a bunch of stuff going on there. And I fell into this creative rut because I wasn't doing the things I was going to be doing at 368. I was going to be a studio manager and kind of managing what goes on in the studio and for events and whatnot. Obviously, we're not having events anymore, so we can't. That was different, and so I ended up just acting as sort of like a PA, and just kind of organizing things and all that stuff. I was doing way more than a PA would.
Mhm.
And it's weird because like I said, I recently got let go because of this viral video and this day I spent on live rather than working, which is weird because it doesn't, we're a creator studio. You would think there'd be some support for our internal creators if we're gonna support some external creators after. We should support our internal creators first. It's a team of creators and very talented creators as well. So it's it blows my mind, but at the same time, it's like universe like being like, dude, it's time for you to go to you and stop working for someone else, start working for yourself. And the way I look at it is like I actually incorporated and started my own LLC called Go for Brandon LLC, kind of just to protect myself and my assets when I do freelance and I do sign contracts. That if there is ever a breach in contract, I'm able to kind of protect my assets from that's separate from myself. You know, back I filed this on Thursday, and I was like, okay, it's going to be done in December, so I'll have time to kind of get my own studio and get things rolling, and as well, on top of working at 368.
Mhm.
Um, that was here's the way the universe kind of was like, yeah, this is your time to do this now. Um, it was like yesterday was the day I was fine, like them letting me go was finalized. Like they canceled my email and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and I realized I was like, wait a second. I mean, let me just check my business just for shits and giggles. And in that process, I found out that my business had been fully approved and everything like that. Business name, everything had been fully approved yesterday, and it wasn't supposed to be done until December 16th. And I was like, dude, if that's not a sign telling you like you got to do this now, dude. Like I don't know what is. And I think a lot of it was focused on for myself. I had all these things I wanted to do before the accident. All these things that were scheduled to do. I had a food show that was getting ready to start. So many different things that were about to just be
So,
huge. Yeah, I can't really tell you about it because it's a brilliant idea and I can't disclose it to someone because um, until I sell it to someone because that's how you gotta play it.
okay.
You gotta play it that way because it's brilliant. I was able to bring on a bunch of sponsors for that like B&H Photo, who's a consistent sponsor of mine, has been supporting me ever since the accident and knew about the accident or since before the accident. And when the accident happened, rather than them dropping me as a creator, they even boosted the support even more. And
Awesome.
they would send me care packages all the time, like with snacks and all these like these fun stuff. And it meant a lot to me. And I was like, it was cool to see what was going on there, and I felt to make it feel like I was still part of that community, you know.
Excellent.
Um, but yeah, it's I'm definitely grateful for where I'm at, dude. I'm so grateful, and I'm so grateful for everything that takes place in my life and for my family. And like, I'm such a family person, dude. If I wasn't a family person, I would have moved to LA a while ago. Just because there's so many more opportunities out there, as a creative and as a YouTuber even.
But I think you're in great position right now, man. I think you're
Yeah,
in a great
I
position right
think
now.
I
And
think I have a lot to live up to for myself. I have these very high expectations for myself, and I was very it's just a matter of getting things done and just stop thinking about doing it and just start doing it. And I say that it's so easy to say. It's so easy to give advice to other people to be
do
like,
it.
stop saying it and just do it until it's yourself and you're like, fuck. Okay, we're doing this.
It's a
and
different process. It's a completely different animal when you're the
of
one that has
course,
to, be forthright and kind of jump into it.
definitely,
Now, one last thing that I
of course,
wanna
man.
I wanna ask you, man, before I let you go. Have you already 100% comfortable to get back out there, to get back on the streets, to get back there,
Oh
whether
yeah,
it's on a board, a bike, whatever? Are you
I do feel
100%
comfortable. Yeah.
comfortable again?
Yeah, so I've actually ridden a board recently, not recently, but back when I was even closer to recovery, um, or even sooner in the recovery process than I should have. And my mom was very upset about that. To my point, my mom actually bought my board from me because I was going to sell it. And it was worth about $900, and I was going to sell it because the company went out of business. Boosted went out of business, so I was like, okay, I gotta, I want to sell this to get some money out of it because I'm not riding again. So I wanted to test it, make sure it still worked when my mom was out of town, which wasn't the smartest idea because
Oh man.
I knew if I were to, I was obviously wearing a helmet this time, like a very solid helmet from Rock, and I knew if my mom saw me walk out of my room with a board in my hand, she would fucking shoot me. So like so she immediately I was like okay. So when she went out of town on business, and she was working on the VMAs at the time, and she didn't find out until it slipped up. She didn't know, and then it slipped up back when we were in Florida. We were talking about they thought they'd found an attorney. And I was like, oh, about that, I wrote it. And they're like, what? I was like, yeah, I told you about this. Like, no, you didn't. I was like, yes, I did. What do you mean? Yes, I did. And I had told them about the. I guess they forgot because they had that reaction when I did tell them the first time. But my family didn't really remember that when I told them that. I was like, sorry,
So
I'm
you
fine.
you try to be slick about it, like, no, I told you.
Yeah.
Remember, I told you. I told you
Well, no,
about it.
I actually did tell them though. That's the thing. I actually did tell them, but they just didn't remember me telling them,
But how did
which
you
is
tell them
fine.
though? You must have told them like in some kind of quick.
No, it was super quick. I was like, yeah, I rode the board. I just wanted to make sure I was on the sidewalk, whatever. It's fine. And they were like, well, you rode the board. I was like, yeah, I didn't go fast. I was going like 5 miles an hour, whatever.
Mhm.
And oh, whatever, Brandon. And this is when we were leaving for COVID, leaving like our apartment.
So you, you
Um,
you said it at the perfect time. We're thinking about a pandemic. We're thinking about how to stay safe.
yeah,
And you bring it up like,
you're
okay,
making a good
fine.
time.
We're
Good
gonna talk about
breakdown.
that at a later date.
Yeah.
Uh,
But yeah, man. If you have any other questions, like I'm not on a time schedule. Like unless you are, like I'm
mhm.
open to talk about whatever you want.
Yeah, no,
Yes,
absolutely, man. I mean, so again, usually these interviews. Thank you for your time, by the way.
no problem.
Um, so then, like that was a big question for me was like how secure you felt. You get me? Because
Yeah.
it's like I remember one time when I was a kid, and I think I was like maybe 10 years old, and we were in a really bad car accident,
Mm-hmm.
like on a highway,
Oh
or like
no.
our car spun like 3 lanes, and it was like it
Wow.
was scary. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember once we got the car fixed and we got back on the highway, I was terrified. I was
Yeah.
terrified. I never wanted. I was like, hey, I'm gonna be on the roads forever. You're never gonna see me on a highway again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But eventually, you kind of get over that fear. But you can only do it when you actually jump into it. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad to see that you already feel comfortable enough to kind of jump into that and finally be out there again.
Yeah, I think there would probably be a little more like trauma if I don't know why I put air quotes around trauma. There's definitely traumatic, but I um I think there'd definitely a lot more trauma if I remembered the accident and like remembered whatever happened. Um, there's so many theories of like maybe I was hit by a big person of power and so someone who has a lot of money or a lot of power in the government of some sort, um, and was able to put me into their car and bring me to the hospital and kind of leave me outside the hospital, and then have the camera footage erased of me all over the lower Manhattan. So there's no trace of anything. And then when an
Sounds
EMT,
crazy.
oh, it's the longest shot of them all. But at the same time, it's like, dude, at this point, I'm open to anything. And there was this that because then maybe an ambulance pulled up and saw me laying outside, and then they brought me in. That's why I was brought in by EMTs, but there's no ambulance report. And or there's a theory of maybe I rode myself there after I was hit by a because there's the biggest, the most logical theory right now is that I was hit by a box truck. So like a UPS, a FedEx,
Oh, okay.
like a UPS, a FedEx, and Amazon, something like that has the wide mirrors that like stick out, okay, and or even a bus. As I was riding, because I ride goofy, so I'm looking. I rode my right foot forward and my left foot back, and I'm looking forward. So in my accident was on the left side. That was where I was initially hit. So there's a theory that like maybe I was riding and a truck came beside me and they were closer than they thought they were and kind of nicked me. And so that initial like hit wasn't what did the damage, but it was enough to knock me off the board and then slam my head into concrete into a sidewalk. Because there's evidence that I just from what happened to me that I hit my head on a curb because my spine I was at a chiropractor recently and my spine is right on my neck vertebrae, or my neck vertebrae is like all slightly pinched to the right. It's all slightly pinched here. So it's like boom, like something hit here and I was like, and so it makes sense. And that's the most logical theory that we have right now. But at the same time, it's all just theories right now because we have no hard evidence of anything except for the fact that I left my house at 8:50 and I was 8:50 and I was checking the triage at 9:13. There's a 23-minute long window where it's like, what happened? How did he get there? Why was he a John Doe? Why was he diagnosed? Why was he a drug overdose? What was going on? And there's so many different theories about it, but at the same time, they're just theories.
Absolutely. And I don't know, man. I don't know. I
Crazy.
hope for your sake and for I think also your mom that kind of went through that, man. Like I still think
Right.
about it
Yeah.
from your mom's perspective emotionally.
Everyone, my
Your
friends too,
friends,
like my mom and my sister immediately started documenting on Instagram. If you look at my Instagram, you'll see there's a highlight called recovery on my Instagram, and it takes you from the night it happened at 12:13, when I was in the middle of surgery, after my brain surgery. My sister posted on my story. It was like, hey, just so everyone knows, Brandon was in a skateboarding accident, and this is what happened, and he's in getting brain surgery right now, emergency brain surgery right now. We need all of your prayers and all of your thoughts to help him get through this.
So since now you kind of know that life is kind of so delicate, because when we're young, we kind of think, hey, look, yeah,
I'm
I know
invincible. I'm
death is
invincible.
inevitable. We know death
Yeah.
is inevitable, but it's still far away.
Yeah,
I'll get
of
there when I'm
course.
80, 90, whatever. And to kind of have that moment face to face with death, essentially at
Mm-hmm.
was it 19 years of age.
Yeah,
Obviously, I think you have a greater respect for life and what you have.
100%. Oh my gosh, yes.
But how do you still kind of say, you know what, I got to go balls to the wall. I can't, play it safe anymore. I have to live the life that I want to live.
How do I do that?
Yeah, because I
It's
mean,
with
because you again, you faced it. You saw death in the
because with
face.
that mindset, dude. Like I was telling you, with the idea and the knowledge of like, dude, you could be walking out tomorrow and get shot. Like you know what I mean? Like randomly, you can get mugged. Because I'm in Brooklyn. And Brooklyn's nice, but like it happens anywhere. You know what I mean? Like it can happen anywhere, middle of Manhattan. Like people get knocked off all the time randomly, and like I think it's like a person dies every 8 seconds, and it's like in ever like all over the world, a person dies every 8 seconds, and like a kid's born every 14 seconds. Something it's crazy.
Mhm.
But it's like knowing that I could step outside today and being just and I think it's not even that in an optimism way. It's looking at it's like grateful to have woken up today. I'm grateful to have woken up today and I didn't pass away in my sleep. I'm grateful that I didn't that I got home safe last night. And it's not like, oh, the world's a horrible place, but it's like, dude, anything can happen. You know what I mean? Like, how is there a factor where it's like I was face to face with death, 7 minutes from death, and being pronounced brain dead, and having to have the plug pulled on me, to then being where I'm at now, a year and a month later. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's like
And I think at the same time, like the same way anything bad can happen, anything
anything good can
great can
happen.
happen as well.
Course, of course. And that's what I'm saying. Like with this whole viral video and me getting kind of let go was it was I was happy. It was weird. I don't know if I've been fired one other time, and it was I was working at a restaurant, but all of my other jobs I've quit. Um, and it was all it was always like either way. Anytime you left a job, you're always like sad. And there's definitely like yeah. I mean, that was my dream to move here. That was the reason I moved here was to work at 368 and to be a part of 368 and be the Johnny on the spot for 368. But I mean, dude, dreams are only dreams until you figure out that your knight in shining armor is just a fucking loser in tinfoil. So it's like
It's a great way to look at it, man. I've never heard that
Yeah.
before.
it came with myself, and and it's crazy, man. It's the way I look at it. It's like if I can, I don't need anyone else to be my knight in shining armor other than myself. You know, I need to be my own role model, and I need to be I need to set an example for other people who could have gone through this situation or are just in a weird spot in life and or just happy to watch other people be happy. That's my whole thing is I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy, dude. Just want to make I want to be happy and I just want to spread love and spread positivity and spread optimism. I feel like we're in such a pessimistic world right now, especially with the elections just happening and the
Mhm.
division of America right now and everything with that. It's like there's so many different things that like are just crazy and that they're going on. Another crazy part about this, I totally forgot to mention, that I recently posted on TikTok. You're probably wondering with all these surgeries, how much was like the medical bills? Because like insurance only covers so much, you know. My final medical bills ended up being $3.9 million.
Get out of here, bro.
Yeah,
There was no way it was 3.9 million.
yeah, dude, crazy. Just because the emergency surgery alone, each hour in surgery is like an insane amount.
Now,
How many hours was it?
I was in 3 hours of surgery. And each hour was probably because think about with all the tools they're having to use to
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah. So, um, but I had filed for Medicaid on because I was freelancing at the time, so I had no employer
Mhm.
to provide me health insurance. So I um I had applied for Medicaid on October 3rd, and I was approved on October 6th. The accident happened on October 11th.
Wow.
Tell me that isn't some like weird like universe aligning in a really weird way to like make some things happen.
To make sure that you
Um,
are safe. Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. It's insane. And I'm like, because think about it, dude. Like $3.9 million. That's more than most people will make in a lifetime. You know what I mean?
Bro, you shocked me.
Like,
I always imagine like, yeah, I mean it's the United States. The medical bills are always going to be
exactly.
astronomical. But bro, you might as well round it up. It's $4 million
Yeah.
of medical
I
bills.
mean,
it's gonna continue to go up. My recent surgery I just had was $95,000. My ear surgery it was a 45-minute long surgery. $95,000 just because of the delicacy of the surgery.
And then, but again, I don't
And
want
then I
to.
have another one in January where it's like it's gonna be even more. It's plastic surgery that's gonna help fix my face and my eye because if you see my eye kind of sags and when I sweat, my
Mhm.
head is actually isn't really swollen right now. But after like I sweat or I work out, my head gets super swollen to the point where my eye kind of just sags like this over my other eye, so it impairs my vision.
Mhm.
So that's a reason why we're getting it done.
And forgive me, I don't want to be too intrusive,
No, of course, dude, I'm an open book.
but I'm assuming then your bills were at least the portion that you would have to pay was, I'm assuming, substantially less.
I had nothing out of pocket. Came nothing out of pocket.
Nothing out of pocket?
Yeah.
Oh my God, man.
I
Thank
didn't
God.
no prescriptions, nothing. Like everything. It was a true blessing that I
Well,
had.
one thing I will tell you, man, you've been connecting with people, bro. You've been connecting with them. I mean, you obviously, yes, the viral video is viral because of the story, but I think
yeah.
a lot of people are connecting to you because, again, you come off as a very as a young 20-year-old, but with great perspective on life, and I think that's resounding for people regardless of age groups. I think so. I think you're well on your way. So
Thank you.
before we call this interview, I wanted to ask you, where can people follow you? Do you have anything coming up that you want people to kind of keep their eyes on?
Yeah.
Tell us, man. Tell us how can we keep in touch with you?
So I've been able to, one of my biggest like flexes, I should say, is I've been able to acquire Go for Branded on pretty much all platforms, and which is awesome. And I really love that name. I think it's really cool in that aspect, because I have Go for Gaming, I have Go for Merch, I have Go for Brandon, like, so it's cool for me. And so I'm getting my new studio soon, and so I have a big interactive experience coming up with on my YouTube channel that I would love for people to come check out, because I know um, if you look always like build out videos of like studios or like stuff in a home, it's always like, I'm gonna do this thing, you're gonna watch me do this thing, you really have no input on it. I'm taking that and I'm gonna go out and be like, hey, here's this. I'm gonna be live very often, and I'm gonna set parts of the studio aside and leave it blank, and be like, okay, I'm gonna do everything you tell me to do here right now, and you guys are gonna tell me exactly how you want it to do it, and it's every single person is gonna be like, I want it this way, I think it should be this way, and I'll take all of those suggestions in a live commentary and a live video, and turn that into a video, and turn that into a video where it's like we have a live camera going on. There's other camera angles going at the same time, but at the same time, it's like the main angle is coming from the camera. So it's huge, and I'm like super excited. And B&H is gonna partner with me on that, and provide me all the gear I need, and as they always do, because they're amazing, and they're the best gear provider in the world. I would say they're the best. The way they interact with creators is a way that's way different than anyone else. So I'm super grateful to have them on my team. But yeah, and I'm hopefully these few interviews I've had, I've got something coming out with BuzzFeed by the end of this week, and then so by the time they're seeing this, probably gonna be out already, and then Lad Bible is posting a compilation of my videos from TikTok on their Facebook and on their Instagram, which
Crazy.
is huge, and I'm so
Crazy.
grateful, dude. It's
You're putting
crazy.
them everywhere, man.
I'm so grateful, dude. And my family was telling me the other day, when I sent them the videos, like my sister's friends had been DMing her, and my sister was telling me, she's like, they were like, I just saw Brandon on my For You page. It's finally, it's good. He's finally getting the attention he deserves, about this story, and it's I wouldn't really necessarily I deserve it. I just say it's a story that people need to hear, to understand like how precious life is.
I
And
could
at the end of the day, if if it can happen to me, it can happen to you. It can happen to your brother, your sister, your mom, your brother, your daughter, like anyone, your grandfather. You know what I mean? Your grandson. It can happen to anyone. So at the end of the day, it's like, tell someone you love them and keep on keeping on. You know.
absolutely. And on that note, again, Brandon, thank you so much for your
Thanks for
time.
having me.
Can't wait for people to see this interview, and I wish you the best, man. I think the future is definitely bright with you.
Thanks for having me, dude. I really appreciate it.
All right, brother.